Hey, gang. Welcome, one and all, to yet another episode of Wick TV. Oh, my goodness. I've had a weekend, ladies and gentlemen. I've had a weekend. Rowan, nice to see you. Welcome.
Hello, how's it going, gentlemen?
Yo, I love it. Okay. You're here. You're ready. This is
Here I'm ready
excellent.
to engage in some free speech, bro.
We are live, by the way, just so you know, so you don't start saying your favorite slurs and stuff. We save that
Excellent.
for
Good
later
to
on.
know.
But
Hell yeah.
I was just telling my audience a story about what happened to me this weekend. Okay, so my
Okay.
computer on Friday night, right after my stream, it fried. It literally zapped. It was gone. Okay, wouldn't turn back on. None of the components worked. Well, some of them did, but not the CPU or the GPU. And so I was fucked. But luckily, I was able to get my hands on a new computer, quicken in a jiffy, and we are using that now. So if there's any technical difficulties, if there's any kind of messing up with settings, I'm gonna blame that. But welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the show. Today we're gonna be talking about a recent decision, some recent discourse that's happened regarding Kamala Harris and Joe Rogan. For those of you who don't know, Kamala Harris was in talks to go on the Joe Rogan podcast. Trump did it recently. I don't know if any of you saw that episode or not, but it got millions and millions of views. There's been a discourse on whether Kamala should have tried harder to go on the Joe Rogan podcast. Some people say no. Some people said it wouldn't have been good for her. It wouldn't have gained her anything. She might have messed up. There's all sorts of, Rogan wouldn't treat her fairly. But others say that's kind of bullshit and she should be flooding the zone. We've got a panel full of wonderful people here to talk it out. I'm going to give the mic to each of them, let them introduce themselves, give their initial thoughts, and we'll go with what we got. And we will start with the man of the hour here, Rowan. Go ahead. Am I saying that right, by the way? Rowan?
Yes, it is Rowan. Two
Go
syllables. Ahead. Thanks, Wick. Well, first off, thanks for having me on. Great to be here with y'all today. Is my audio okay? Okay, cool. So I'll make my position here pretty quick. I mean, I think that Kamala should go on the podcast still. I think that she doesn't really have a lot to lose from that. I think that given the reach of the Joe Rogan experience and the sort of like centrist to, right wing people that watch his podcast, she could flip, at least, I don't know, say even 0.5% of the people that watch that podcast. That's still tens of thousands of votes. I don't think she has a lot to lose from going on the podcast per se, because I think any person who was going to vote for her that would not on the basis of her going on Joe Rogan's podcast, I just find that number probably pretty minuscule. And she has everything to gain and nothing to lose. That's my position.
Well, thank you for being here, and we'll see how it goes.
Thank you.
Tyler, average debate enjoyer. What are your thoughts here? Go ahead.
I'm going to go, I'm not saying he's wrong. He has a couple good points that are valid. I think that she has more to lose than to gain, and a lot of it is because of political polarization. You can't call Joe Rogan the guy that took horse dewormer, the pro-Trump MAGA Republican, even though that has no bearing in reality. You can't frame him as the evil devil enemy and then turn around and just take his podcast without some people holding you credible for your words previously. I'm not saying she's new to the scene, but this has been a 10-year effort. You can go back to the New York Times. The pipeline to the alt-right starts at Joe Rogan. And the theory here is if Kamala Harris went on the podcast, she'd be watching Ben Shapiro Owens videos in a couple of hours. So I just don't think that the people she's trying to play to, the people she needs to get out, are going to be ones that she would gain from going on a niche podcast.
Okay, well, thank you for being here. We'll see how it goes. Admiral Gibbs, what do you got for us today?
Yeah, I mean, it's real simple. She obviously should have done it, in my opinion. I think that, Joe Rogan's pretty nice to most of his guests. I don't think he was gonna go in there and just drop the hammer on her. It's one of the biggest platforms in the world. Everybody watches Joe Rogan. The clips will be shared forever. I mean, a big problem for the Dims have been seems like the lack of messages, the lack of or whatnot from them. The lack of the interviews, and then she's had some pretty bad interviews. I mean, she went on Brett Baer, which was a disaster, and it's because he was gonna grill her. I don't feel like Rogan would grill him. That's not really his style. However, for some people, yeah, I guess the argument could be I can always get worse. And I really think that's the only thing I can come up with is the Dems just are admitting that she's just a terrible candidate who can't think on her feet and there's bad interviews. And that's the only reason that anybody could really say that not going on the podcast was a good thing.
Well, Gibbs, thanks for being here. We'll see how it goes. And last, but certainly not least, often topical, what do you have for us today?
Sure. So I am fairly neutral on it. I don't think it was a good thing. I don't think it's a bad thing for her to go on. I don't think it really matters. You look at the polls; she's ahead in favorability over Donald Trump. I mean, the actual the end of the day polls are neck and neck, but she's ahead in favorability. I don't think it would have helped her. I don't think it would have hurt her. Rogan is obviously a softball. It would have been a softball interview. The guy has like two brain cells to rub together. So I don't think it's that big of a deal in either direction. I'm just not a fan of Rogan in general. I don't like him. I don't like what his podcast has put into the discourse. So I'm all in all happy that she didn't go on, but I don't think that it is a really big deal in either direction as far as the campaign goes.
Okay, we got a lot of opinions today. We got a lot of different views from across the political spectrum. I guess for the people who say or who are hesitant about her going on, can you elaborate a little bit more? Tyler, you said she had a lot to lose. Explain, and then we'll kick off the discussion. We'll open it up and we'll go into it. But go ahead.
I would say that she is trying to win certain demographics that don't really watch. You don't see white suburban women. You don't see people that are in favor of Palestine. You don't see these traditionally, or at least Joe Biden voters that are kind of breaking off with Harris will actually listen to the Joe Rogan podcast. And instead, they believe the narratives of, again, the New York Times and the Atlantic, I think, did a big thing about it as well. Like, they believe these narratives. It would dispel a lot of those narratives that have been going on for a decade if she just suddenly threw them out the window. She'd be saying all these people that we're framing as evil fascists and bad guys that you don't want to side with, they're actually not so bad. I can go in and have a decent conversation with one. And to Gibbs' point a little bit, yeah, Rogan hasn't pushed back, but when he feels somebody is weaseling out of his point, he does nail it home. He did it with Sanjay Gupta, he did it with Steven Crowder, and he did it with a couple other people that over history. So if Rogan feels like somebody's dodging his question, he will. And he did it to Trump, too, multiple times on tariffs, on a couple other things. He kept looping Trump back to the initial question. Harris refuses to answer any questions. She goes through 10D chess to get it back to one of her 6 talking points. He would not have allowed that. I think it would have been a downside all across the board.
Floor is open, gang. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, I feel like whenever you look at the people that watch the Joe Rogan Experience, his YouTube analytics are pretty close to mine and probably all of ours, right? So it's over 80% age 18 to 34-year-old males. I think that if Kamala goes on his podcast, and if she could play it off as just, if she could be very conversational, very fun, very open, you could flip, not like the hardcore, right-wing people that watch Joe Rogan, but there's plenty of people that just feel perhaps a disenfranchised liberal or some kind of like centrist, center-right fence sitting audience members that I think probably could be swayed by her. I don't think that people would stop voting for her by going on. So I'm really just kind of confused by any reason why she shouldn't. That podcast is almost at 40 million views now after 3 days. It's just more eyeballs. It's more attention. And I think to Tyler's point, I mean, I think it's okay for her to not like Joe Rogan and still go on the podcast. I mean, you can still admit that people might be a net negative on the discourse, but still acknowledge that they have a large platform, that it's probably a good idea to go on and be personable, talk to people, just for the eyeballs, you know?
Sure, but Kill Tony has a large platform. Was it a net positive for Trump to have him come be a speaker yesterday?
Yeah, probably.
I don't think so.
What do you
I don't
mean?
know.
Yeah, Kill Tony's like up and coming. What's really crazy about this is if you compare numbers to similar events, Kamala was just on a YouTube, right, with Beyonce, and her video with Beyonce in there has like what? Like less than 500K views versus the 40 million. It's always about like being in the forefront of people's minds. That's what you want. You want to be in the front. You want to be at the cutting edge. Kill Tony's the cutting edge. Last year, nobody. Then he comes along, does that really amazing roast stuff. You know, he's been good in the underground circles. He makes a name for himself. Kill Tony's the new hype. Yeah, I think it's a net positive to how Kill Tony on with Trump. I mean, what do you? How is it a net loss? It's like, obviously it's a loss.
To be clear, what they're talking about,
sure.
if my audience doesn't know, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you're talking about the guy who made the Puerto Rico joke and other things on
the Jew
Tony
jokes.
Hinchcliffe,
Yeah.
Okay.
A few off color.
I mean, but he's a shock guy. I mean, that's what his brand is. Like, you're
slightly
not like
inappropriate for a political rally. If it was on stage somewhere, absolutely.
Yeah, as opposed to like Megan the Stallion twerking all over the place. Come on, bro. Like,
Fair point.
Is she twerking at the rallies?
Listen,
she did.
Yeah, she did at twerking at the rally. Hey, I'm all for getting Amber Rose, since she's a fan of Trump, and Megan the Stallion, putting them together and have a twerk off for president. But listen, that's not going to solve too many people's voter discrepancies, like what they're going to decide here. Come on.
Okay, well, I don't know if we're addressing the actual point, but we'll get to it. I guess for the people such as Rowan here, who thinks that there's just so many upsides to this, can you elaborate a little bit on why you think that, given Kamala's previous appearances on major news networks such as Fox News, she's been on CNN, she's done interviews all across the board, right? What would make this one any different? It doesn't seem like those other interviews have moved the needle at all. Why would this one? Go ahead.
Because I think the people that watch Joe Rogan are kind of a unique cross section of America. I think that you have lots of people who are on the fence. Some people that are fans of RFK. Some people that are fans of Trump. And I think that there's an opportunity there to. It's not very likely, but at least a few of those people could be flipped or even moved to vote if she has a charismatic appearance. I guess my question to the people here would just be: I still haven't really heard, like, what is a material downside to her going on the podcast? I mean, do you think that there is a section of voters who would have voted for Kamala that will not because she goes on the JRE? I mean, and then if so, weigh that against the people that might vote for her if she does go on.
Topical, you want to get in here before I filibuster?
Yeah, so I'll say I don't think that an appearance on Joe Rogan is swaying anybody in any like meaningful capacity. I think this election and the last few elections have been so divisive that everybody is pretty much already hunkered down into who they're going to vote for. I don't think that there is a significant population that's like, well, I wasn't going to vote Harris, but now that I saw her on Joe Rogan, she's got my vote. I don't think that anybody who was not energized to vote is going to be energized to vote by a Joe Rogan appearance. And I don't think that anybody who was energized to vote is going to be de-energized by a Rogan appearance. So I don't think it moves the needle in any significant direction in either way.
Hold on. So you just because I want to push back on that a little bit. Do you not think that there is a group of people out there who don't like Trump? They are very anti-Trump, but they don't know Kamala. They are unsure. They've heard rumors about her, right? They've heard a lot of talking points about her. They maybe saw her debate and saw a few other appearances, but felt she was kind of like, they don't know if they can trust her. Given that Rogan's format is very laid back, it's very one-on-one, it's very kind of passive, do you not think that there is at least a small portion of voters out there who might be like, well, you know what? I know that Trump and Vance and all these people are saying she's a communist, but I didn't see that from Rogan. I didn't see that from when she went and talked and just was a human being to this person.
Sure.
right?
I think that those people exist. I mean, it's a country of how many millions of people? Everybody exists. Every one of those type of person exists. I don't think they exist in any significant portion or significant numbers. I don't think there are any significant numbers of voters who were not or who were on the fence and would be moved over by a Rogan appearance. I think you could maybe pull like a couple hundred, a couple thousand, but like we're talking a cross section of a cross section of a cross section of people. Um, and so I just don't think that it's like electorally significant.
I think you guys are more thinking about independent voters. I think that that's like a non-consideration here. If you listen to political podcasts, chances are you've already picked out your person. I do think Rowan has a point that there are some people that might, and Wick, you're saying it too, that it might humanize her a bit and draw some people over. But I think that we're ignoring a very large chunk, especially of the online left, but the left generally, that think everybody to the right of them is evil. That think that, look what happened to Joe Manchin, RFK Jr., Tulsi Gabbard, lifelong Democrats that were just completely dragged through the mud and smeared by their own party because they weren't significantly on board enough with the movement. If Kamala Harris starts pussyfooting with moderation too much, she's going to lose those people, and they are a larger driving force than the couple 100,000 votes she might swing from young males that don't even vote that often.
Those people are already lost. If we're talking about like the people who were like she's enabling genocide, like those people are already gone. The far left is already gone. Like that is a foregone conclusion. Like they're out in their own world. We're never getting, the Democrats are never getting them.
I would disagree. Destiny is still like out there campaigning.
No, I think that you hit the nail on the head there with the word choice, pussyfooting. She literally is pussyfooting around with all of her answers. Like she's over here playing cattywampus, all getting in the hills and not giving a straight answer on anything. And it's just crazy to me. Just crazy to me. I think this is an admission that she can't handle the day-to-day of the White House. That's the admission by the Dems.
No.
She can't handle, like, if a hard question is asked randomly, if she doesn't have the ability, only has the ability to fall back on 6 topics, and that's all she does every time. I think this is the really damning thing. By admitting she can't even handle Joe Stoned Rogan over here asking her questions while he's high. It's going to be too difficult for her to come up with responses. What does that say about her leadership? It means she's got none. If these were getting threatened by the Russians with nukes, oh God, guess what? I don't know what to do. Like, I'm going to fall apart. It's really scary. I think it's damning. It's really damning with it.
I'd say she did a pretty good job when Brett Baer played an edited clip to try to call her a liar, and she called him out on the spot in the middle of it. So bad that they had to come on the next day and admit, yeah, we did lie about that. We did deceptively edit that.
They said directly, we lied. That's what they said.
Yes.
Verbatim. Is that what they said?
I don't think that's what they said.
They said.
Listen, I want to be the source
guy.
Okay.
They said we edited the clip. The clip was edited. Kamala Harris did say that we, because they had edited the clip. They said we lied. Edited the clip.
Did they edit it out of context? And I think the answer to that is no.
Yes.
Watch the full context and the clip. I think they got the whole. She did awful on Fox. She
specifically said that he said something, and they said he didn't say it. They play the clip, and then you watch the I think it's like 6 seconds before the clip starts. He did say exactly what she said, and they had to go on the next day and admit, yeah, he did say that. We did deceptively edit this clip.
Because listen, I'm gonna have to say they need to edit out a lot of it. All response like, did you? What are the numbers on this? And then it'd be like 10 minutes of, well, I was once born in South Carolina, and my aunt and uncle saw a dog walking down the street one time in a middle class neighborhood. And I'm like, what does that have to do with the border? Like, we're asking how many people came through illegal. Well, one time I saw Elon Musk's Tesla drive by my house, and it reminded me of my middle class upbringing. Like, of course you're gonna have to edit out shit. Come on, this is nothing.
What does that got to do with what I said about what they edited out of Trump's?
I'm talking about Kamala.
They did edit the clip, and pointing out they edited the clip is true, but it's also a non sequitur. She never answered the actual question that was being presented to her in that.
Hold on. Before we get off this, I'm just curious what the sides actually are here. Rowan, do you think Kamala could handle this interview? Right? Like, did you see the Trump interview the Brett Baer interview that she did on Fox?
No, I did watch whenever Joe Rogan went on Trump, but I didn't watch Kamala with Brett Baer.
Okay.
I did have a concern that Kamala might not be the best conversationally. Because say what you will about Trump, I was not a fan of that podcast whenever he went on Rogan. I found it very,
Hmm.
very vapid, and but and shallow. But Trump is funny. I mean, Trump is good in a casual setting, at least in terms of like seeming like semi-charismatic. Although with when it comes to policy, I didn't really hear much from him at all. Kamala, I do worry because she does have kind of a stiff aesthetic. I wonder how she would do in a setting like Joe Rogan, especially because it's such a broy podcast. Could she actually vibe with him? I just think that, and I agree with Topical that there's probably not many people that she would flip to vote for her. But it's probably a non-zero number. It's probably a few. And I don't think she has anything to lose. I'm not sure that anybody would not vote for her. So to me, I'm more neutral than anything, but I figure she might as well go on just for the few flipped votes, and also just to be able to say that like she went on and didn't like, because it sucks to say that Trump did it and she did not. He's making the podcast circuits, she's staying out of it. That's just not a very good look optically, and that might not really manifest itself electorally. I'm not sure because the internet
Well,
podcast brosphere is kind of a bubble, to be fair. But
hmm.
there's just not really much to lose, I don't think.
It's also, and if I may jump in here, right?
Mhm.
It's about morale, turnout, right? Even if you're already on Team Kamala, you want to see her do these things, or at least I do, because it shows that you're in it. It shows that you're trying. It shows that you're doing something, right? And
Right.
I think that by refusing to go on or having scheduling issues, I think was the excuse that they made. It's a mistake. It's a mistake. I think that it depresses the people who want to see you go out, and even in a adversarial podcast, right? Even when you know that they're not going to be fair to you, you know that they're not going to treat you well, and let's assume that she's correct. It shows that you can handle that kind of thing. Like, do you think Xi Jinping is going to be fair to you, right? Do you
Well,
think
I will say
Putin is going to treat you fairly in a discussion? No. And the voters, even Democratic voters, even Kamala's voters, want to see her and want to see how she does in these settings. And her not going on it signals weakness. It signals weakness. It's not good. Anyway,
if I
thoughts?
if I could whataboutism a little bit, I think what I would have preferred to see more than a Joe Rogan appearance was a second debate appearance.
Mm,
I think that
mm.
that would have been more entertaining, maybe moved the needle a little bit more than a Joe Rogan appearance, but that's just me.
I think though it also piggybacks off what kind of what Wick's saying. Like, so an accusation of Trump recently, which is fucking honestly hilarious to me. But all of a sudden, a big narrative I've seen on all the Twitch poll left and the all on the even on the TV is, oh, Trump's losing a step. His mind's going. He's tired. He can't handle it. And then Trump's out here going, I did 3 events today in 3 different states. Kamala took a day off, and then she didn't even show up for Joe Rogan. Like, ooh, like it's like, you just got double whammy there. Trump's supposed to be the old decrepit one, huh? And he's over here 3 states in one day. And what are you doing? You're playing piddly dicks around back. Like, give me a break. Come on. Like, I don't know.
I want to jump in here and say that, like, being a bad talker and bad on the campaign trail doesn't necessarily translate over one to one to being bad at the job itself. I think we do have a little bit of a low information popularity contest factor going on with this, but it still matters in getting elected. So I won't say she's going to be a bad legislator. It doesn't translate over as well as some people are insinuating here to her being able to talk to world leaders and make policy because she was in the Senate. She was a DA. She can be tough. I saw her embarrass herself with Brett Kavanaugh just because the subject matter was false and she did a horrible job doesn't mean that she wasn't a great prosecutor in that moment because she absolutely was. That being said, though, again, like you guys are talking about flipping votes, like what does it matter if you flip young votes at question mark area? These campaigns, you really should look into what they're doing because they're not even just going by state, they're going by district. They're looking to get those small margins in specific districts so they can win exactly what they need to take that state. If you flip a couple male voters in a state that you already won or don't have a chance to win, who gives a shit? So, like, I think her efforts focusing on the task at hand and what's actually important. Now, this all goes out the window for the Al Smith dinner, whether I think Wick brought it up with the scheduling issue. Al Smith dinner is a tradition. She should have went to that, absolutely. But Joe Rogan's not. This is the first time this has ever been done. She is not compelled in any way to go to it, and I think it actually hurts her with her base.
I would have loved it for the meme alone to see Kamala on Joe Rogan. But to be fair, again, even to be in the space that all of us are in on like internet debate, politics, podcasting, this is a bubble. It is a cross section of the entire country. Are we a demographic that could flip an election? Yes, but could she flip enough people like us to actually win? No, probably not. But I don't know. I think that any eyeballs are good eyeballs. Trump is now, 30, 40 million views. I don't know, anything to be more relevant, to be on the front page, to have zingers, to have clips go viral. Just the better that is overall. And not even just for her to win in this election, but just generally to have clips of her out there that are sounding good on podcasts, being charismatic, being funny, debunking stuff that Trump said on his podcast. I watched this video by Kyle Kalinske earlier today, in fact, where Kyle just completely
Kyle. Go on.
totally obliterates like 20 things that Trump said on that podcast because Joe was just not prepared to deal with such a pathological liar like Trump kind of proved himself to be. And so I think she had a chance to really go on and could still do that. And that would be very interesting to kind of see her be the one to fact check all the things that Trump said that were not true, because Joe clearly did not do a good job at that. Just one thing real quick that I want to point out. This is small, but obvious. Trump was like, the windmills, very bad. They kill the birds. And if you look at the numbers, actually, it's true that windmills do kill some number of birds. But if you look up the numbers, windmills kill on an average of 1 million birds a year in America. Cats kill over 1 billion a year. So that's 3 orders of magnitude larger than 1 million. Right. So it's just like the scale here is not really adding up. And I believe the total number of birds in America is something like 800 billion or something. So that's like a thousandth of
Cancer
whatever
kills
percent.
more people. Let's not worry about Hamas. What the hell?
Yeah, like proportionality. I get okay. Little stuff.
Yeah.
I want to factor in one other thing. My parents, right, for example, they're like, I don't know, they're old, right? And they're like, hey, I'm gonna go watch Trump and Joe Rogan. Like, I think y'all are like making this a thing, going, hey, nobody's watching this except for the podcast sphere. Joe Rogan's like a massive name. If he gets somebody massive on there, everybody watches. It's not just like it's like Barbara Walters for old people. Like, now it's like, oh, we're sitting down, we got this guy, he's like the new Barbara Walters, except like I guess, which is kind of crazy to think about, but like it brings eyes, and it's not just this small demographic. It's just to me the only way you can spin, like really the only thing that you can spin this out of this is that she's terrified of big bad Joe Rogan and his questions, which means she's gonna be terrified of every world leader she sits down across.
I don't think that's
exactly what it is.
I'm gonna say right now, I had to check the billion number because that sounded wild to me, but no, I'm finding the source, right? It's there. Whether that source is accurate, I'm not sure, but it's not just out of your ass. I guess to kind of piggyback actually on what Gibbs is saying here, because I think this is important, and I think that topical, I think you downplay this too much, and Rowan, even you're downplaying it as well. I think it's not so much how many people watch, but who watches and what they say and how big of a reach they have. So one of the things that we forget is that even in these small spaces, right? Even in these very small spaces, it does have an outsized influence on the media sphere as a whole, because reporters occupy these spaces and they report on what they see and what they hear. And those reports go on things like Fox News, MSNBC, CNN, and those go into the living rooms across America where people are talking to their relatives, their friends, and family. So again, you may only get a few million views on a podcast like that. But the articles that get written about that podcast, or whether or not you should go or not go on this podcast, again, it acts as like this kind of fractaling out of where even someone with like very small podcast can send ripples that everyone
Andrew
starts
from the
talking
Crucible
about.
this week. He made a post about women's duties to have sex. New York Post, Washington, Wall Street Journal editor Sohrab Ahmari was quoting him, and it made its rounds on mainstream media. So yeah, absolutely, we can break the bubble.
Yeah, any chance to go on a podcast and be seen by millions of people is a good thing. I guess the only thing that really the only valid reason for her not going on would be some kind of opportunity cost. Like if she's doing another thing that is so valuable that it is just not even worth her time to fly out to be on Joe Rogan's podcast. But if you can afford to do it, I mean, there's no such thing as bad. I mean, well, there could be a bad podcast appearance.
What do you
but
think
if you
she
prep
should
well
rather
for
do?
it,
Like, what would be a better use of her time?
I really don't know. I mean, unless she's actively like holding massive rallies in like swing counties and swing states and stuff, I'm not sure what else. I would guess that her team's logic would probably, and I haven't heard them make a public statement. I'm not sure if y'all have, but my guess would be that they would say that she doesn't want to like legitimize Joe Rogan or like show him the respect to come on his platform would be my guess, but I think that would be silly. The only valid reason again is if she's like, oh, I actually am holding a rally every single night to energize voters until the election or something.
Is
But
she?
she
Yeah, I
wasn't
think
doing
that
that. She
I think that
wasn't
the
doing
only
that. That's the
thing
whole joke. Like that's
the
why
only thing that
they
they
made
put
that
out
joke.
Hold on, one at a
the only
time.
thing
You're
that
both
they
trying
put
to
out
hold on. You're both trying at the same
Yeah,
time.
be
We
good.
can't hear either one of you. Let's give it to topical, then we'll give it to Gibbs. Topical, then
Well,
Gibbs. Go ahead.
I was just going to say that the only thing that the campaign has put out, to my knowledge, is just that they were scheduling conflicts. They haven't given like a reason why they didn't show up. But that's it.
Yeah, I mean, the dunk has already been. She's taken days off, like with less than 14 days to the election. Like he's like, what was it, 11 days when Trump said this? He was like, oh, she's taking a day off. I did 3 events. Like he's already memed on it. I don't know. And like at this point, to me, like based off vibes and like looking at polling data, when we look at we already know Trump does better than polls, right? And this time the polls seem even. I'm not one of these guys that's going to come out here and act like the election is done. I'm not going to trust nothing till the fat lady sings. But I will say that if I was the Dems, I would be in panic mode. And like I would do a risk assessment. I'd be like, what's the worst thing that can happen on Joe Rogan? She makes a bad podcast appearance and costs her election. I don't know, doubtful. I don't think one bad podcast appearance is going to like cost the people that are going to come on there. Now, hey, you go on there and you can really move the needle, or you have a really good showing. Kind of like JD Vance-esque over here when he came out not looking weird no more. Oh, cool. All right, maybe you go out there, you dispel some of these, laughing Kamala memes or these other things, and she could have big gains. But instead, it seems like they're playing scared, and like YG says, scared money don't make no money. It's just really that simple.
I don't know about that. Scared money don't make no money. I think that if you feel that Kamala's behind, and I don't know if she. Well, first of all, I want to do a gut check for you guys. Who here thinks that Kamala is winning? Not that she's won, but she's ahead. She's winning. The vibes are there.
I do.
1.5. Okay.
I'm coming on for the election stream either this week or next week, so I'm keeping my powder dry on all the electoral stuff.
Yeah, I'm hopeful but uncertain.
So I can see an argument, honestly, if you think she's winning and she's got it in the bag, right? You hold the ball, right? You don't make any plays. You don't need to make any passes or anything. You just hold the ball and you don't turn it over and you keep possession. But if you feel like this is neck and neck, or if you feel like that she's behind, I think that's the time to be trying these new things, to be going out there, to be going on to podcasts like Joe Rogan or even Lex Fridman, right? Maybe you don't like Joe Rogan, go on Lex Fridman, go on one of these other big names, right? That honestly, those are the only two I know. But we can figure out something. I think that, and I know this is a little self-interested to say, but the streaming sphere is kind of the future of these things in a lot of ways, right? Like it or not, legacy media is just not got the same influence it did 10 years ago, even. I don't know.
We're talking about demographics, man. Like, the people she is got to pull in aren't watching this stuff. They're not watching Joe Rogan, even the largest podcast in the world. She is aiming for a more reliable voter base, and they have that. The Democrats are winning special elections, off-year elections. They have the most educated voters. They're pulling in people, professionals, the business class, the successful people. They're pulling in those that don't really sit around listening to the manosphere.
I'll say that we can kind of see as well a little bit of this on both sides, kind of picking and choosing where they think that their time is valuable as far as what interviews are going to reflect well on them, because we can see this on the other side where Trump declined like the 60 Minutes interview, which I thought was a kind of a big deal. But again, if his team finds like, I don't think we're going to move anybody with a 60 Minutes interview, okay, then don't go on the 60
Who
Minutes
watches
interview.
60 Minutes anymore? Aren't their
Do you
ratings like
think?
just
Well, here,
tanking,
can
like
I
in
ask you
general?
something? Can I
Like,
ask
and
you
what do you
something,
think's more
Gibbs?
relevant? Sure.
So, do you think that Trump declined the 60 Minutes interview because he was too afraid to go on and get pushback? Was he too
No,
afraid that he was going to look like an
I,
idiot, like you think that Kamala was with Joe Rogan?
No, I'll actually do the same thing. I think that this is why I keep going back to like Trump's like a business guy, right? He's gonna look at like a risk assessment. Yeah, sure. Maybe he's afraid, maybe he's not, but he's gonna look at like what's the gain. 60 Minutes, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure about this. Has like had declining viewership for a significant period of time, right? Like that's a thing that I think is a pretty well known. Versus even if it's not, it's definitely not gained viewership like in recent years. Like versus Joe Rogan is one of the biggest platforms. Period. Like when you go on there, it's like Madison Square Garden. It's an event. It's a boxing event. It's
Hold
like
on.
a Joe Rogan thing. Like I don't know.
I want to pull in here. So it looks like, and this is just a quick Google, so take it with a grain of salt. This is as of September 17th. The ratings for them is 10.5 million viewers, and they are Sunday's #1 non-sports program.
Sure.
They're the most watched program that's not sports on Sundays.
And they have football leading into it. I'm not saying it's not a big program. I just would be surprised if they're like going up over time, except for maybe slight bumps during election season. I know that traditional news media is going down in general, and the
No.
streaming world is going up.
No.
That's kind of my take on it. I like maybe they have a little bump for during like football season. Maybe they have a little bump during election, but generally, I'm pretty sure the ratings are going. I'll find out.
I guarantee you, and this is just a guess. I don't have any. I'm pulling this out of my ass, just like Rowan was accused of pulling things out of his tight, chiseled ass. I would guarantee you that those 10 million people that watch 60 Minutes vote more than those 40 million people that watch the Rogan one.
I think that that's probably accurate.
Sure.
I'd probably agree with that.
And also,
My
let's
point-
not forget. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. My point is just that like if we're gonna say that like each of the campaigns is clearly making judgment calls back and forth about like what they think is or is not beneficial to their campaign. And if the Harris team kind of like looked at the numbers, looked at where they were polling, and came to the conclusion that this is not helpful to the campaign or is not anything that is a significant bump to the campaign and not worth the time, then so be it. Kind of the same way that the Trump team looked at the 60 Minutes interview and said, this is not something that's going to be beneficial to the campaign, and was willing to take the hit of, I don't know if anybody saw that video that 60 Minutes put out when they said, like, hey, these guys said that they were going to come and then they like pussied out at the last minute.
Or, as you said earlier, the other
said
debates, right?
Yeah,
because
and they just
talk
came
about
to the conclusion
tradition.
that it's not worth it. Yeah.
Talk about tradition. We've had 3 presidential debates for as long as I've been alive, right? There's usually 3 of them. Refusing to do any more seems... Here's my thing. Even if, and here's what I believe, even if it's not worth it to the Trump team to do another debate, like they won't get hits, I think the American people deserve to see them both on stage more together, right?
That's a whole different beast. We got to go back in time to look at one party said they would no longer listen to the commission that jurisdicted the rules for these debates, and so they would no longer do debates on Fox News. And that's when we started seeing debates being canceled. So that was the first stone to be thrown. I want to say in 2016.
Who said that?
Oh,
Which side said that? Which side said that?
I can't remember.
Oh. I wonder which side didn't want to go on Fox News anymore.
It's bad when my side does it. It's bad when your side does it. It's just bad.
I agree.
I don't know. What? Hold on. Can Gibbs agree? Do you agree?
I will say this. This is my thing. I'm gonna pull a little Kamala answer. Give a little long-winded one here. No, I don't know. Sometimes I think yes, that it is a problem. Other times it's like, okay, one side does something and the other side is supposed to just be like, hey, you know what? We're going to follow normal procedure and hope we don't get fucked. And then, like, how many times you do that and then you do get fucked before you're like, now you're just a dumbass. Like, pretending. Like, I hate to go back to the border thing because I know everybody knows this is my favorite talking point. But it's like, why? Like, one of the arguments we made was, why would a new thing fix something that should have already been done, right? Like, we should already been following these laws. So, like, I can see it, like, in a case Where, hey, y'all have already thrown the stone saying we're not going to go on the conservative news station because fuck you, with others going on something else going, okay, yeah, well, fair play. If you want to play that way, we'll meet you at the halfway point. Yeah, is it good? I mean, no. Is it like strategic? Sure. I mean, like I said, if the other side's not going to play fair, why should we?
Trump is flat out saying he'll do a second debate if it's on Fox News. And Kamala said no. She wanted the Joe Biden rules that Joe Biden.
She should have said yes. They both should say yes. Anytime, look. If they don't want to go on Fox News, if they don't want to go on MSNBC or ABC, I will host it. I will host a debate between both of them. They can call me up. I will do a good job. I'll be a fair moderator. I will ask them both pointed questions, right? And we'll get to the heart of the matter here. But here's the deal, right? And this is where I think that this is the difference between you and me, Gibbs. Okay. When Kamala does something bad or something I don't agree with, easy call. Yeah, no, she should have gone on Joe Rogan. She should have done that. She shouldn't have refused to do the debate on Trump. That was bad of her. That was a mistake. However, when I'm asking you, hey, what about when Trump does these things and you do these like fucking Olympic gymnastics to try and like say why it's okay or it's justified?
I'm not saying it's okay. I'm saying justified.
So say it's bad. All I need you to do is say it's bad.
I mean, the bad is just so technical. Like, it's not my preferred thing. It's like what's bad for one might be good for another. That's how everything works. Like,
it's true.
I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not going to go out and say it's bad. Like, sometimes I say things are good, for like a certain party. Like, I think it would have been
more debates are good, less debates are bad. That's it. More screen time with all the candidates
I would
are
like
good.
To see it personally.
Less screen time with all the candidates are bad. And it's bad that candidates
we're getting lots of screen time.
It's bad that candidates feel like they have to go into their own fucking echo chambers to preach to their choirs. And we talk to each other less and less and less and less. And so we both have these separate realities. Shut up while I'm ranting. These separate realities where we're going off and believing totally different things because no one can fucking talk to each other or even be in the same room anymore. And I'm getting tired of it. That's all.
Right.
So, but could it also be like sick of always going into hostile territory?
I want to say I agree with you at an ideological level. I absolutely do. Like, I'm not trying to push back because I disagree on the fundamental. You're 100% right. This is the preferred world that I would love to live in, but we don't. And here, the practical reality: the president's the guy that gets the most electoral votes. And if you got to go into your echo chamber and dodge any hard question because you're a uniquely bad candidate who has a husband that beat up his ex-girlfriend, you got to do what you got to do, man.
Well, I want to say to Wick's point as well, we are really isolated these days. We are in our echo chambers. People are very, very siloed off. And if you have an opportunity to get eyeballs on you that otherwise might not go out of their way to hear you talk, you should seize that opportunity. You might be giving your viewpoints on things might be the only exposure to those viewpoints that a person might ever get. So as many of those as possible, you should do. And not just to win the election now, but we don't know how that will ripple out and affect people to become more open to Kamala's side of things today that will go on to talk to their friends. Just anecdotally, I was an edgy young right winger in my younger years. I'm more on the left now for sure, but it was partially, due to podcast appearances from left wingers on Joe Rogan's podcast. That was really my first exposure to things outside of my echo chamber when I was 19, 20 years old.
Do you have a specific one you can mention, right?
I think one was Thaddeus Russell. And then also whenever Bernie Sanders went on, that was one that I really, really enjoyed. And then just and me having friends, in my personal life who showed me left-wing content creators. And then I can say that after I became a lefty, I had a friend who was still a conservative that now I have turned on to Destiny because of my influence. So it's like you never know just by going on a podcast and changing a few minds how that will ripple out, and then what those people might do. I've now built a platform where I plan on spreading that message even further. And so you just, every chance you can get, you should do to spread your message, to be seen by people, to give your policies, give your arguments. There's just no downside. Unless you're woefully underprepared and just a uniquely shitty talker, then maybe we can talk.
To add to that, like I brought up the like hostile territory thing. I think that like Trump has proven willing to go to hostile territory, right? He like there's no question Trump will go and do a hostile interview. Like now maybe he's picked and chose a few of them, but he's gone on 2 debates where it was basically the candidate, a candidate, and then a third person that was tag teaming with the other team against him. Like it was basically in cahoots, tag team wrestling match, like from the WWE is what he was walking into, and he's getting hit
Yeah, but
with
then
his
what
jab.
did he say?
And he
was
came
like,
out. He
I'll
came
never
out
do that
solid.
again.
Yo, but hold on. He came out solid. Why is it unfair, like so bad, for him to want? Okay, you know what? I think if we're gonna do a third one,
Look, if
let's
he
have it
can't
on the
handle a
Fox News
hostile
platform.
moderator, he's not
But
going
he's
to
done it
handle a
twice.
hostile
But he's
government
but he's
leader.
done it twice.
If
So
he
my thing
can't
is, why can't
handle the
Kamala do it?
ABC moderators,
You're not gonna spin
right?
this with.
How is
like,
he going to handle
he's-
Putin? How's he going to
he
handle
handled
Xi
it fine.
Jinping? How's he going to handle
Advance, he would
fucking
check one of 'em.
Kim Jong Un? He's not. He's going to fold. You can't play. You
fake
can't.
news. But
It's
why
not
is
going to
Kamala not
work.
gonna go on
It's
Fox
not going to
News
work
today?
to complain on Twitter
Come on.
about how, oh no, Putin was so mean
So you're
to
saying
me.
he shouldn't get one home field advantage debate?
Can
Like
I
isn't
get a
like
fact
like
check?
I'm
No,
just
he
saying.
should. He should get them. I'm not saying he shouldn't.
Come
But
on,
you-
one
I
home
just
field
wanna
If you're
advantage. Too much.
complaining
I just wanna
because of the
ask-
moderators, go ahead, often.
I'm just saying it was tag team.
Because I might not know it, so I'm genuinely asking: has Trump done any like CNN interviews? Has he gone on like CNN or MSNBC and done a sit down interview with any of them
Like ever, or just in this
recently?
recent-
Like this cycle.
I can't. I think JD Vance is handling most of the adversarial media now.
Okay.
Yeah,
I mean,
don't
he
think we
just
should
went.
jump
Well,
in there.
Vance just went on Jake Tapper or whatever. He's a
I'm just
CNN
trying to
guy.
check because I know like whether or not you think Kamala did good or bad in the Fox News interview, for instance, the fact that she went there, I think speaks pretty loudly compared to whether or not Trump is doing when we're talking about adversarial interviews. What was the last adversarial interview that Trump went into? And I'm genuinely asking.
I would have to look. I don't know.
We can name Kamala's off the top of our head. Brett Baer.
I mean, but he'd had one earlier. I remember he had.
Yeah.
Hold on, he had
Hold
one
on, name
earlier in
it.
the election cycle. I can't remember. It was the one with that
Okay.
white guy. They all look white, and he sat down. They all clipped. There was a whole bunch of clips. He was the younger white one. I can't think of his name. Maybe he was from MSNBC. The point is, though, he's on all these all the time. I mean, like, come on. I mean, I just did a quick Google, and they have. I mean, I have interviews all from all the Wolf Blitzer and Scooper. He's got all sorts of interviews from all
This
sorts
election
of years.
cycle?
This cycle,
I mean,
yeah.
Not this. I mean, I don't know. Let me just give you 2 seconds. I'll find you something here.
Okay.
But like, I already know we went on one earlier in the year. Like, so.
I mean, it
I
shouldn't
just
be
don't
that
know off the
hard
top
if
of
you're
my head.
saying he does it all the time. It shouldn't
Well,
be that hard.
hold
to
on.
find
You're
him.
telling me you remember every interview Kamala's gave recently? Come on, everyone. In the last 6 months,
I
tell me.
remember the last.
Tell me the last 6 months. Oh, you
I
remember
didn't
her
say
last
that.
one.
I didn't say that.
Okay.
I said I remember the last time that she went on a hostile interview. It was a few weeks ago on Fox
I get
News.
the fun of dunking, but realistically, you get the fun of dunking on Gibbs. It's a good time, but
Oh,
realistically,
try.
realistically though, it's they don't want a bad answer to come out and be a campaign ad. Like right now, she's voting or she supports they them not you, and then quoting Kamala Harris is a really effective 15-second ad in the swing states. And Harris, it's so effective. Harris brought up that it's unfair that he's running it. Blah blah blah. Anywho, I think that's more what they're trying to avoid is the negative. If Fox News asks you a question, they make you follow up, and then you finally say something on the topic that Trump could turn around and run as an ad. It's a sensitive time right now. I think like the small percent of leaners, like they really
Bloomberg. There you go. Bloomberg was his last hostile one.
Which was when?
12 days ago.
Okay.
Yeah, Trump has been tested in the fire already. I don't even think he needs. This was the incumbent advantage that was a huge deal for Joe Biden dropping out. Joe Biden didn't need to go out there and define his policies. His policies had 4 years of real practical application. He could have gone out there and done the exact same thing Kamala Harris was doing and probably pulled 5 points higher because we already have those policy questions answered for him. Whereas Trump the same way. Kamala, we don't. She's out there saying, I wouldn't change anything from Joe Biden, but I'm not going to be a continuation of his presidency. I have different instincts. So we go back and look at her political instincts, which is like being the most left-wing senator of all time. And then she says, no, that's not me either. So we have no fucking idea what she's doing. Sorry to tap into my next week conversation.
It's fine. We do have only what? It's the 28th today, so a week and a half. No, a week and a day. Voting's Tuesday, gang. So have you guys voted already? Is there early voting in your state? I'm just curious.
I will tomorrow.
I didn't.
Good man.
I'm going on election day.
Yeah. I saw a video
Advised
of I think it happened
ground.
twice. I think one in Washington, one in Oregon, where people were burning ballot boxes, the drop
I
boxes.
saw
Did
you
guys
tweeted
see
that. Yeah.
I got in a horrible argument with some boomer woman on Twitter earlier about that.
There was a
What was
fight
the
at the election
argument?
place that we're not here.
Well, no, I'm very curious. What was the argument? I know it's off topic, but I'm.
Oh, with the woman? Well,
Yeah.
just that. So it was so there were two. There was one in Portland, one in Seattle. One of them had a fire suppressant in the box already, so only I think two of the ballots got burned, two or three. But in the other one, there were like a bunch that were destroyed. I think we all know how the cities of Portland and Seattle lean in terms of right versus left. And we also know how ballot boxes tend to lean because people on the left tend to drop off their ballots more or mail them in. And conservatives tend to go vote in person more and do it electronically. And so in those ballot boxes are almost undoubtedly going to be like 90% left-wing votes. And I think it was who's that one dipshit, Andy No or whatever his name is, and he was like, "Well, there's no evidence to suggest who burned these, but we do know that Antifa likes to burn shit, so it was probably them." And then some woman in the comments is like, "Yeah, it was Antifa." She's some like I don't know boomer. She seems like she'd be a nice lady in person. She'd be like friends with my mother. I would see her at a tea party or something. But online, these people are just insufferable. And so I tried to tell her, like, do you really think that Antifa would burn a ballot box full of left-wing votes in a left-wing city? Are you fucking retarded? And we kind of got into it.
To steelman
It was too
that
much for me. I shouldn't have.
To steelman that, I mean, I don't know. Did they point Free Palestine on the bottom? I can absolutely imagine some of those people being like, Kamala is pro-genocide. We're going to burn all the votes. So,
it's possible.
Not out of the realm of possibility. But no,
it just pissed me off that Andy No was like, "Oh, this must be Antifa."
Yeah, anyone who
just typical.
Luckily, there's probably cameras, and we will find out eventually. If I had to guess, the FBI is involved, and we'll find out.
That does bring up something kind of scary though that you kind of touched on there. There was like just here in San Antonio, there was somebody that was arrested for attacking a poll worker. Like, and it's like, is really this election that incendiary that like we're already burning boxes and attacking poll workers? Like that's terrifying. I don't really have anything other than that saying that, but it does seem that it's going that way.
I think people are very, very scared.
Yeah, I don't know what the solution is there either.
Probably not saying that it's all rigged and fake and that they're stealing it. That's probably got a little bit to do with what's turning up the temperature on poll
I'm sure that's the only thing. I'm
not saying it's the only thing, but I'm saying that you'd be stupid to say that that's not a contributing factor.
I mean, yeah, I'll agree that could be a contributing factor. I mean, there's all sorts of things that could be contributing factors. I mean, you say that we just take out? I mean, sure, okay. I mean, in Connecticut, they did have a mayor steal an election. I mean, there's been a whole big trial about it. Guess what party they were in? Oh, they were the Dems. So it could be on a massive scale. I can see the argument being made to scale up. So sure, I might say, yeah, we maybe should stop saying one thing, but there's all sorts of other stuff. There's a whole culture war going on, and I can see why people are mad about that too. There's stuff going around Israel Palestine. People mad about that. Like, there's all sorts of stuff people are mad about.
Okay, Gibbs, you do this thing. Hold on, Gibbs, you always do this thing. First of all, $2 from Joe the Mig. Thank you for the $2. Lefty anarchists in Portland isn't as stressed. Fair enough. Thank you for the $2. But Gibbs, you do this like Xenox paradox, right? Like, you can't cross the room till you cross half the room, and you can't do that until you cross half of that. But you can't do that until we cross half of that, right? You make it a simple thing sound impossible. You overly complex
because it is impossible
when it's really, really simple.
Because you'll make
both sides
turn
down the
temperature. It's called the weave. It's very high IQ.
The weave?
No, it's
called the weave. Very high IQ. Not many can follow along.
Frankly, I'm surprised that he got it. No,
this is a
problem. It's facts.
This is a problem.
Facts, though. But you'll act like it is just as simple when it's not. And that's what's infuriating. You're like, oh, we could just say it's not stolen. I'm like, well,
Tell you what, you guys stop claiming the election is stolen, and we'll stop calling all of you fascists.
No, I have a better idea. I have a better idea.
For poll workers. Which campaign?
Which campaign? Here, I'll give you two. Give you 1 minute. I'll pull it up from my files here. We got this one saved somewhere. I got you.
As somebody that's older than 4 years old, campaign denialism is more of a Democrat thing, but.
Well, I'll save you the time to look it up. It was Rudy Giuliani lost to Ruby Freeman for saying that she was stealing election.
Had to give up his penthouse suite.
Yeah, and the Ferrari.
Oof.
So sad.
Wrong. Bad. But here's the thing. Look, I think we can all agree that we are in a situation today where our politics is very polarized. Not the most polarized it's ever been. We had the Civil War, we've had the 60s, right? But it is in a very, very strained place. One of the reasons that I advocate for Kamala to do Joe Rogan's podcast isn't just for her victory in the election, but I think we need a cultural change. We need the fact that there are people who will punish her, and Tyler, you're not entirely wrong, that there are people who would punish her for going on an enemy podcast. The fact that those people have any seat at the table is insane to me. It's insane. We need to stop that shit. We need to try to stop treating each other as enemy combatants, right? This isn't Israel-Palestine. We can actually live together in peace. But I'm just seeing the rhetoric, the temperature being turned up by all hands, right? Everyone's at the knob turning it up, and everyone's pointing to the other side like, we have to turn it up because if we don't, they will. And I think we're in a bad place. How do we fix this? Rowan, how do we fix that? How do we get less polarized in our country? Go ahead.
How do we fix polarization? I mean, I think it has to start with dialogue. I mean, I think that whenever you look at, we have an evolutionary mismatch, I think, with how our brains work, with how the internet works, right? I mean, anger is one of the most engaging emotions that causes us to share things. There have been many studies on this where content that makes you angry is something like 2 to 3 more times likely to get shared than any other kind of content, right? And so whenever you combine that with the way that algorithms work and how they put you into echo chambers, combined with like, there's this thing with in-person communication where, and even over video to some extent, that there's just more of a air of civility, especially in person whenever people can smack you. You know, there's like a thing, there is a regulatory mechanism, you could say, that is activated that is completely gone whenever you're on Twitter or on the internet, and just and talking over text to people. So I mean, how do we fix it? Fuck, man, I don't know. I mean, we just some kind of radical restructuring of how social media works. But short of that, I mean, things are just getting worse. I have no idea.
I think social media only amplified it. So in the election in the 1800s, there was the Jeffersonians who were being framed as French loyalists who were going to sell out and destroy the United States. And then the anti-Jeffersonians that were being framed as British loyalists, they were going to destroy America and sell out our country to the British. And this was in 1800. Both sides were saying that the other side was going to destroy our country and sell them out to foreign adversaries. So does that sound familiar?
About Jefferson.
So like, that being said, like if you look all the way back, the way that we fix this is we need to incentivize it to disincentivize it. So we make it so anything that goes through the House does not pass unless 25% of the opposition party votes for it, forcing bipartisanship.
We're never getting anything done.
You can never, well, in the current status, absolutely. You cannot vilify your enemy. You can't say all those people over there. You can't say Mitt Romney's going to put black people back in slavery, because then when you turn around and work with him 40 times a year, you're enabling a guy that wants to reinstitute slavery. It completely solves the problem at the root where it's always been since we've had our democracy.
I disagree. Y'all, I mean, you know what? That was just such a bad idea that I forgot even what Rowan said. But I'll tell you the solution is that, dear God, I'm not even joking. My ADHD kicking in the heart. This is the thing. Like, there's only one real solution for this, and it's going to sound maybe nihilistic or pessimistic or whatever, but the world, it's really hard for people to love each other. It seems that way. Humans don't seem ingrained that way. We're very much predisposed to hate people. So the solution is actually hate. We got to find an outside enemy, and we got to unify the country with an outside enemy, and we got to go take them out. And that's how we get...
I'm looking at you, Canadians, but go ahead.
Canada... We don't like Trudeau wearing those Star Wars socks. Y'all gotta go. No, listen, whatever works for me. I'm just saying the only way is to get the American to decide we got somebody a bigger fish to fry than our own people. Like that's really the only solution.
Aliens.
I have found aliens. The solution. The solution is
space colonization.
We follow the wonderful example being set by the Democratic Party when we see Harris saying that she will create a bipartisan council of advisors to go ahead and help her out when she wins the election. We go ahead and follow the Democratic example of not calling Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema Democrats in name only. Now, you got Twitter people saying that, sure, but you don't have Democratic leadership saying that.
Yes, you do.
I don't remember Biden or Harris coming out and calling them traitors to the Democratic Party.
No, he said that they were segregationists, actually, in verbatim words.
When did he say that?
He said, if you are on the side of Bo Connor, if you're not on the side of this, when they voted against him.
Voted against on what? A single vote?
On his voting right bill, on his voters' rights bill. Kirsten Sinema voted against him. He said, you're on the side of Bo Connor.
Did he say that she is like a bad person, or did he say that this
name her
vote?
by name. He said everyone that votes against on this.
Okay, so everyone who votes against it, so that includes Republicans as well. He's not talking about
a bipartisan coalition.
My point is, whereas we see with the Trump campaign, if you are a Republican and you speak out against Trump in any way, you walk outside of the line, you do not toe the exact party line, you are a rhino, you are excised from the party. That doesn't seem like unity.
I'm sorry.
To me.
What's happening to Eric Adams right now?
I mean, hold on. That's not true. Tommy Lauren criticizes Trump all the time, and nobody says she's ostracized. Everybody loves her.
Or how's her career doing?
Pretty good.
She's all over Tommy Lauren in years.
Tucker
I mean, what do you need? She's all over Fox News and Piers Morgan like every week, like twice a week.
Tucker Carlson had pages of text messages.
I think she got her own show on Fox.
Trump's 2020 tactics and how he was ruining the party, and he was just at the fucking Madison Square Garden rally. If you speak out against Trump, it depends on your audience size, whether or not he abandons you, just like anybody else. Eric Adams right now is saying he's being persecuted for speaking out against the Biden administration. There are very clear times where Democrats, Nancy Pelosi, the iron fist in a velvet glove, she is notorious for crushing people within her party that disobey her. They use the apparatus of funding to primary anybody out that even has small discrepancies with the Democratic Party. That's why they're all in lockstep now, because anyone that voiced disconcern got the Tulsi Gabbard.
Hold up. Democrats in lockstep? Why isn't Biden the one running again? Because Democrats were absolutely not in lockstep. They had a huge upheaval, a huge debate in the party, and there was, unfortunately, I think a mistake was made, and we got who we got. But yeah, to act as if Democrats are all in fucking lockstep.
There was no debate in the party.
Insane.
The debate was on Twitter. The party uniformly came out and switched overnight from Joe Biden.
It's a joke. Democrats' disarray is like a meme because again, there's constant disagreement within the party. Democrats are the Big Tent party. Republicans, Trump specifically, has. Do you guys remember who David French is?
Yeah, I used to read him a lot.
Yeah, he used to before he decided that Trump wasn't a very good person. Then they made memes of his biracial daughter in a gas chamber, and Trump was pulling the lever. That's what they did when they spoke out against Trump.
Could you tell me what you think about Tim Pool?
Do you think Tim Pool's a Russian stooge? Okay.
No, he's
Tim Pool's
not.
Yes, he is. He was getting paid by a Russian government.
He was the victim.
If Russia wants to victimize me with $5 million checks,
honestly,
by the way,
$5 million checks, I might.
He was unaware that a Russian, again, like the Russophobia. I have no problem with Russia, who's not our enemy. They're just an adversary.
They're definitely our enemy, but
the Russians are our enemy, bro.
Listen, they're not our friend. What do you mean? Hold on. Since when has all right, let's just look at history. What are the five polar powers? It's got Russia, you got China, you have Mideast, you have Europe. These are centers of power throughout history. They're not our friend, Papa. They've never been our friend.
Why would thank Tyler for actually unifying us here? I agree with Gibbs. I never thought I would.
Less than a decade ago. This isn't this whole
because we won the Cold War. We won.
I started watching politics before Trump was in office. So to me, to call them an enemy,
they may not have been an enemy during that time, but they are absolutely our enemy today.
No, they were still our enemy. They were just a weak, not important enemy.
Xi Jinping, come on, what's the fuck? The Iranian guy, okay? Kamalani, Kamal,
if they're an enemy, why is the Biden administration saying that Ukraine is not allowed to use weaponry to attack them.
Yes,
because they're trying to prevent nuclear escalation. I mean, they're giving Ukraine enough to defend themselves, but not because. And you're right. I mean, there's some kind of limitation that they placed on Ukraine where like they can't strike X number of miles into Russia or something, because if they did, Putin might lose his shit and like nuke somebody. So they're trying to play a weird game where it's like defensive but not too offensive.
I don't think nukes are
really
even on the
that's why it's
table
happening.
or ever have been, besides a couple of rhetorical comments. He's
No,
never.
he's been. Hold on. Putin's been given a red line after red line, and they've been like, let's cross this line, see what he does. And Putin's proven to be a little bit apprehensive about using nukes.
The Biden
Thankfully,
administration came
but
in
and
still approved the Nord Stream 2 pipeline that Trump had put on suspension, allowing their economy to boom. If they were our enemy, why would he do that just a couple of years, 2 years ago?
Because the Nord Stream 2 pipeline was, I think it was connected to Germany, wasn't it?
Yes,
right?
yes. They were our enemy, though, right?
But Germany was not.
That?
Okay,
Yeah,
and simply because someone's an enemy doesn't mean that you are constantly at war with them.
They were,
right?
they were
it's like we do trade with China, but I think China is our enemy. Like, but China we trade with them.
They're a geopolitical adversary. We treat our enemies much different than we treat our geopolitical adversaries.
No, we treat our enemies who we are at war with, because again, depending on size of the people, right, we have to trade with China because of the size of the people, right?
Are we at war
the size of the markets, the size of population.
But are we at war with North Korea? Have we been for the last 30 years? Because we're treating them like enemies. And that's
we hold on. We are at war. Hold on. We are technically at war with North Korea.
We're giving China concessions so that they sanction North Korea because we're so friendly with China and unfriendly with North Korea.
Yeah, but listen, no, you're framing this wrong, right? Listen, just because you can work with someone who's your enemy sometimes doesn't make them not your enemy. Like sometimes shit's just got to be done. Like, right, like if you have an unhinged neighbor, like, all right, it's like sometimes the enemy of my enemy is my friend, or sometimes like, hey, maybe we call Bob, who's friends with our even worse enemy, to like maybe like, hey, bro, like this shit's getting real bad. Is it getting bad for you over there? I know we hate each other, but maybe handle fucking old Kim and make sure they don't fucking go off the rails. Like, I mean, there's something to be said for like diplomacy, but these guys aren't our friends. Like they're not our friends, and they're actively working against her. So even if you want to just even if you want to just say adversary, fine. Adversary implies that they're not our boys and they're working against us. So like, sure. I mean, I don't really see what your point is. You're arguing.
Enemy is a higher standard.
No, enemy. I'm going to go with the higher standard here. Iran, China, North Korea, Putin, Russia, the axis of evil. Like, I'm not even fucking kidding here, right? They're authoritarian regimes that are gaining power, gaining strength, gaining world prestige, and that we need to treat them as what they are, which are our enemies. They are our enemies.
Let's vote for Trump.
No, Trump will suck Putin's dick.
Yeah, but Biden and Obama literally did that already with Iran. Here's a speculation about Putin that never happened for 4 years, where Obama and Biden literally bent down and took it up the ass from Iran, giving them billions of dollars, giving sanctions in their benefit, punishing Israel to their benefit. They've been kissing Iran's ass. The JCPOA, the Iran deal, was a huge boon to them. So
the Iran deal was amazing. They were denuclearized, and then Trump pulled us out of it, even though they never violated it.
Small parts of it, they did violate it before.
Did they? No.
He did not violate the Iran agreement.
They did violate it before.
Come on. They had a secret program the whole time.
They
did,
and as soon as they left the Iran deal, the secret program.
Send me a link that Iran was secretly building nukes.
Let me finish my point here. They weren't building nukes. They were advancing their program to go past the limits of the JCPOA.
I just want to clarify, did we ever declare war on the Soviet Union? I know you asked if we were at war with North Korea. Were we ever at war with the Soviet Union?
Yeah, that's another point from my argument there. Yeah, I don't think we directly were ever at war with them.
There was a whole thing called, I don't know, something like a Cold War. Because we never actually went to war, but we were definitely adversaries with them. They were definitely
I'd say that's a step above what I'm saying, but still a step below. I mean, I'd say they were enemies.
Well, and we had dozens of spies. We had dozens of spies in each other's governments as well. As recently as one was caught in 2001, I believe.
Well, look at what happened recently with the Iranian the leaks, right? That came from the American government because there was a I don't know if they were a spy or someone simply sympathetic to Iran who linked Israel's attack plans against Iran just last week, maybe 2 weeks ago, was it?
And then
terrible.
This week,
Terrible.
the
They're our
US government's
enemies.
getting mad.
Right?
The U.S. government's getting mad because Israel won't share
I
their plans
agree.
with
They
them
are
anymore.
enemies.
I don't know what to tell you.
And they have oil.
Listen, okay, Zog is outside the scope of this conversation. No, yeah. Zog, we can't go there. They'll shut us down, all right?
I know we've gone. Look, we have jumped the shark. We are off topic on this. I think we've all kind of made our points on the Joe Rogan thing. But I still want to talk about shit. If you need to go, I understand. But
I can shoot the shit.
I'm down to stay. I got my TV's coming in 3 minutes, so I'll be gone for like 5.
I get
but I'm down to stay.
Yeah, here's the deal. Let me ask you this, and this is to everyone. How is it that people? Can you give me the best? Rowan, I'll ask you first. Give me the best pro-Trump argument you can. Steelman it. Why would anyone, reasonable person, vote for Trump? And then I'm going to ask Gibbs to do the same thing with Biden, or Harris, I should say in this case. But go ahead.
I wish to try to steelman Trump. I mean, it would have been way easier in 2016 to steelman him whenever he was actually running on economic populist positions that he then backpedaled. Now, I mean, the best thing that you could say about him is that he would probably deregulate businesses and drop the corporate tax rate a bunch such that we would have a boom in the economy for a while, at least at the top. I mean, you would have businesses massively explode in terms of profits and stuff in the short term, at least. And I mean, he would do a child tax credit again, which was a good thing that he did. And those are pretty much the only two things that I could list. And I guess now with RFK, with some things with food, might be a benefit. But I mean, the buck would stop there, I think.
Okay. Gibbs, give me your best steelman. Why would anyone reasonable person want to vote for Kamala Harris?
Well, I think I'd start with what we were just talking about. I mean, Russia is a traditional enemy of the United States. They've been basically our biggest nemesis since ever. I mean, I don't know. There's nobody a bigger enemy than Russia. And, that comes down to Ukraine. Secondly, we have a very big military-industrial complex. We act like doing all these deals with Ukraine where we're selling our old tech and getting money back on shit that we basically mothballed isn't fucking great. And then we're getting to test our tech against Russian new tech, and we're getting to see. I would argue that all these things are good things. Also, you're a capitalist. You probably like the military-industrial complex getting bigger. Let's build more factories here. We're going to have more weapons. That's good. I also like the idea of America spreading its influence across the globe. I'm an interventionist. These are things I would argue. You can really probably get a lot of neocons on your side with this argument as well, especially when you go over and just start chopping up Iran for oil plots. I'm a really big fan of that idea. And then we get revolutionary power. I would start there. Moving on to our domestic policy, I'd really just focus on the foreign policies. The major portion is what I would try to do, I think.
Okay, what about you, often topical? Why would a reasonable person vote Trump? And then I know you're a moderate, Tyler, but I'm going to ask you about Kamala. So go ahead.
I would say just general, if you're in favor of deregulation, obviously you're going to get that with any Republican president, especially with Trump. He's talked about that a lot. So if that's something that you want, that's something that's going to happen, and that's going to be great for you. On top of that, I think just if you are in upper income brackets, you're going to get great tax breaks. It's going to look really good for you. I imagine the lower class is probably going to get some good tax breaks in the interim. I think if I'm remembering correctly, it'll be just like before where they sunset. So it won't be great for you in the long term, but it'll be good for you in the short term. And I could see why you would want to vote for that.
Okay. Tyler, you're up.
Which one do you want me to
tell me on Kamala?
Okay. Temperament, maturity level, education, of her personally, not so much the education plan. In terms of her policy, where I actually practically think she's going to go, is she's going to be a continuation of Joe Biden's third and fourth year policies, which most of those were making up for a lot of his year one mistakes, like siding with Iran, going after gas and oil, and several other things that ended up backfiring and having him walk back for the next 3 years. So I feel like all the mistakes that happened during the Biden administration, that you tend to see from a new administration, would be wiped out because Biden already made them. Kamala would be a nice continuation of the things that actually work. The Democrats aren't known as being good economic growth people, but they are known for being better stewards of the economy, whenever there's a big problem, they tend to stop the bleeding very well, even if the recoveries are kind of slow and shitty. They did a very good job at stopping the bleeding. So I would say that in a way they should be rewarded for that as well. A lot of the things I don't like about the Democratic Party now tend to be going out of favor. And I brought this up to a couple people privately. One of my big complaints about the Democratic Party is gender. And I feel like the Democratic Party is running away from that topic this cycle. You have that senator hopeful from Texas pretending like he didn't even vote for anything pro-choice. I don't even want to, those people are gross. Get them away from me. Kamala Harris refuses on CNN to formally say she endorses gender-affirming care at all. Like, won't even say yes at all to anybody for fully grown adults. That to me is showing the party is kind of getting some pushback on this topic, meaning that they are listening to the public, they're listening to the moderates, and they're showing us that we're going to get more of a Bill Clinton party, which is what a lot of us old former Democrats want.
Yeah, the reason I'm asking you guys this is because I think that, like, something I see all the time to people who are very partisan, right, on either side, is how could anyone vote for Trump? Or how could anyone vote for that communist Kamala, right? Or that fascist Trump? And I think that until we understand how it is or why it is that someone would actually cast a vote for the other side, it's going to be very hard to reach that other side. And again, this ties back into the Joe Rogan thing. And one of the reasons why I'm very pro going on to Joe Rogan, Lex Friedman, etc., is because if you want to actually make some gains and some inroads into the voting bases that you normally don't, which won't just help short term, but will help long term, it is a needed thing for the party, right? And for your ideology, is you need to show that you see them as human. I think that we aren't prepared for a conversation on why many people, not all people, obviously, there's a whole gamut of them, but there's a significant portion of the electorate who vote based on how they feel that they're being treated. And that's by not so much the candidate, but by the people who they consider representatives of the candidate. And they will consider that to be the weirdest people you know. There's a lot of people who won't vote for Kamala because Destiny said a mean thing. And they say, look, Kamala doesn't care about me because Destiny made a joke about that firefighter man, right? That's how they think. That's how they view things. And I think until we kind of have a conversation about that, until we get to until we understand that we can't just go around calling everyone that disagrees with us retards, as fun as it is, then we're going to be in this situation forever. And people like Tessie Johnson in my chat who are saying, who's doing that? Who's being mean to Republicans?
Destiny.
On Twitter.
A lot of people.
I try to be the most polite person on Twitter. You're 100% right. And it just fails every time because some toxic little kid who doesn't know shit about shit is just, as soon as their point gets refuted, they attack. And it's like, it's an ego thing. You got to separate your ego from your political views.
Well, this comes back to, I think, a cultural problem I've spoke about many times, which is the bitch assness of the current generation. It's really and it's spread across all of it. There's no accountability. We've got rid of accountability. Everybody feels safe when they sit there behind online. Everybody got participation trophies going up. Nobody knows how to lose gracefully ever now. So used to, you lose a battle, you go home and you learn something. What I learned? I maybe shouldn't fight the 6'7" kid that's all state linebacker. Maybe I learned from that. All right. So you got an ass whipping, you get some accountability. Now everybody's like, well, I can go up to anybody and say whatever the fuck I think, and there's no consequences. Why would I ever have to work again? I'll just go collect my welfare check. Same kind of mentality. That's kind of what we've just pervade throughout our United States. And the really solution is we need to get back to the basics, I think, and ass whoopings for people. That's what needs to happen. It's really simple.
You're amusing. Let's say that.
I mean, I'm 100% serious though.
That could be ass whoopings.
Yeah.
I think that people shouldn't get their ass whooped for speech, but they should. It is good that people should be. There should be an underlying threat of that, and an in-person conversation, which prevents I think talks from flying off the rails and going like super like insane nuclear like they get on Twitter. Kind of like the phenomenon where, you know, there are two dogs on two sides of a fence that are barking at each other like going crazy, and then you open the fence and they stop immediately because once the stakes are actually high and you're sitting across from a person at a table, like whenever Destiny and Vosh did some in-person thing, they went from screaming online to being very, very cordial in person, laughing, shaking hands, to stuff that they would have never done over the internet. And I think that this kind of goes back to the point about the internet being this weird thing that it's like it takes away one by one more and more dimensions of how we're actually meant to naturally interact with each other, ways that we evolve to interact with each other. And it creates results that I think are new, that we've only seen in the past like 20 years or less. And we have no idea, I think, as a species, how to deal with that.
Well, if that's the case, what makes us, because I don't think you're wrong, but given the fact that you can reach a very wide audience with very little gatekeeping, if you aren't using this system with all its flaws, I think you're missing out. I think you're just, no one will listen to you because that's where people listen. I don't know if this is solvable. I don't know if this is fixable. I think, again, there are problems with Joe Rogan's podcast too. Like, in all honesty, if she goes on and she flubs it, that would be a terrible outcome, right? It'd be bad, very bad. However, I don't think she would. I think she would do at least passable, if not well, because I think that a lot of people are seeing clips of Kamala. I'm thinking, especially a lot of Joe Rogan's viewers are seeing clips of Kamala, clips of her interviews, clips of these things. They haven't actually sat down and watched a full conversation that Kamala's had. Joe Rogan is hours long talk where his listeners listen to the whole thing and can see, wow, Kamala isn't what she was made out to be. She isn't crazy. She isn't this fucking communist. Maybe those people were lying to me. Again, there's just so many upsides to this. It's hard to. I know I keep harping on this, but damn it, it's important. Okay.
I think Vance is a good example, Wick. Like, you know, like what was the publicity around Vance? Like, he's weird.
Vance
he's
is still a weird couch fucker. Okay.
Yeah, sure. He's a dolphin fucker. He's a couch fucker. Then he goes on the debate and he looks human. And then he does another show interview right after that. Looks pretty good again. And I mean, for the average person, I think a lot of people's perception of has changed quite a bit. Like the normies are like, hey, I thought he was a dolphin fucker. You know,
not
now,
according to the polls. They did bounce.
I mean, I've seen some polls say 10
right
points
after right after the interview, they bounced, and then they went right back to where they are. Or where they were.
I mean, I think we're seeing some different polls. That's another thing. Alt facts.
I think also
everybody's got their own alt facts.
I think when we talk about whether or not Kamala would flub in the possibility that she would flub the Joe Rogan interview, I don't think it would matter. And the reason why I say that is because I have not heard much of anything from this Trump appearance. My feed is obviously fairly anti-Trump. Anytime that he stumbles or he flubs something, it shows up. And I think I've heard like one thing where Rogan was like trying to wrangle him down on an answer. But that's it. So I just don't think that the reach would be there. I don't think anybody would hear much about it on either side. You either are watching it and you care, or you don't, and it's just not reaching you.
So I'm looking at the polls. I hate this guy, but 538 has Vance up 7 points over October still. Like, I mean, so I'm seeing a bunch of polls say Vance still. I think that, like, I think you're kind of hit the nail on the head earlier with your argument, though. There's just no downside. Like, if she has good clippable moments, like, she really could probably have changed some minds on there. And if she does bad, I mean, all you got to do is go, it was a hostile interview. What did you expect? Like, you know, that's. I mean, I don't think she was going to lose people that she's lost. Like, I think that Trump is going to do a good job of, like, going maybe to places that have been untapped. Like, I think young voters feel like they're fucked. And
Hold
I feel
on.
like, you know,
I hate to be that guy, but I just pulled up 538 favorability JD Vance
7.5 October 28th.
Okay, so on October when was the debate, the vice president?
October 2nd.
Yeah.
Like
It was he was at a 35%.
Now he's at
Favorable.
37.4.
Now
plus
he's at
7.5 overall since
37.4.
October
That is
started.
a statistical error. That is not a big bump.
He's
That
up
is
plus
not a
7
jump.
since the beginning of October. I mean,
What? No, he hasn't. It's
look at the
gone
beginning
from 34
August.
points, 34.8 from October 1st to 37.4. That's not a 7-point jump.
Oh, okay. This is from October 1st.
Point jump.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's at a 3-point
August.
unfavorability
I'm sorry.
drop.
3.1 is generally outside.
Either way, it's still gone up. Yeah.
Fairly lowly.
He's up 7 since August.
I've seen some MOEs get up to like 4 or 5, but generally they're below 3. So 3.1.
Let me look and see if they have a margin of error here.
Aggregates, it works differently too. They don't carry over the same.
Oh, that's unfortunate that they don't have a margin of error.
I think they actually go down when you aggregate the margin of error, but don't quote me on that. It's been like a year since I listened to that podcast.
I don't know. Anyway, regardless, any further thoughts on alt media? Is alt media is it a good or a bad thing that we are having this conversation? Even that there are that Joe Rogans, the Lex Friedmans, the Destinies, the others, the Piers Morgans, that this like alternative media has become such an outsized thing. Do we think that's net good or net negative for
absolutely good,
society?
100% good?
Go ahead.
But there's a lot of problems with this that people are underrating. When someone comes out and says something stupid or disgusting because they're trying to be edgy and get clicks, it makes the entire alt media look bad. And serious professionals like reporters and whatnot are never going to come on debate shows if they have to risk being next to somebody that says they laugh when people are shot at a Trump rally because I deem Trump a fascist.
You're wrong. I mean, Piers Morgan literally hosts a debate show and has people that hate each other say wild things all the time.
Well, hold on. Didn't Sarah Palin and Destiny just have a debate? Right?
Yeah,
Sarah Palin.
You're just wrong.
He has that authenticity, and he's bringing those people to that forefront. Absolutely. And Piers Morgan is not a streamer. He's a
I'd hardly call him alt media.
Yeah, at all.
What would you consider alt media if not Piers Morgan? Hold on.
I'd say anybody who does not have the endorsement of a network in the form of having their own like program is alt media. So if you're on a major network, even if you have your own side thing that you do, that side thing I don't think is alt media. I think at that point you're still maybe not mainstream. You could say that you're somewhere in between the two, but I would not put someone like Piers Morgan, if he has an internet show, I would not put that in alt media because the dude.
But he only has an internet
Piers
show.
Morgan. It's Piers Morgan.
Okay.
Like, would you like that's the same thing? Who's the guy? I forget. Don Lemon. I would not call Don Lemon's show alt media.
Tucker Carlson.
Oh, hold on. What's the guy that used to be not on Fox News? That he used to be a mainstream guy, and then he started the Blaze. That's literally where like alt-right media, like
Glenn
terminology
Beck?
on people. Yeah, Glenn Beck. Glenn Beck is literally the originator of alt media. people called alt media because, like, I mean, I don't know if he's the originator, but he's one of these first people who were like, yeah, these guys are alt media. Piers Morgan fits that model to a T. He was like a mainstream commentator that said wild stuff. Yeah, and then turned over and made his own stuff on YouTube.
Yeah, I think you can make an argument, and I think you can make a very convincing argument that I'd probably agree with, that like hosts on the Blaze, for instance, would fall under alt media. But I would just have a hard time calling Glenn Beck himself alt media. Like if Glenn Beck had a show on the Blaze, I just don't think that I would see that as alt media, because we're talking about someone who is a mainstream oh my god, what's the word commentator. That's not the word that I'm looking for, but something in that realm. Pundit, thank you. Yeah, I couldn't find the word. But these are mainstream pundits. But if they leave mainstream and they have their own like alternative media kind of thing, I'd still say that they still fall, like I said, not necessarily in mainstream media, obviously, but I don't think that they fall over into the realm of alternative media either. I think they're in this weird gray zone.
I mean, regardless, we get lost in the weeds of this. As far as the good or bad, I'll say, like, okay, whether or not Piers Morgan's alt media, like Destiny, he's alt media. Like, there's Tommy Lauren, I'd say, when she's on her radio show, she could count as alt media, whatever. Like, there's all sorts of people, right? My thing is, I think that here's what's dangerous. Is I think that people, even like Fox News, for example, or CNN, we have to remember it is infotainment to an extent. Like, what are the two biggest shows on Fox News? Gutterfield and The Five, right? And they both do talk about the news, but like they're kind of like infotainment. Like Gutter Fuel just does one-liners the whole
They're
time.
commentary.
The 5, yeah, they do commentary, right? That's kind of what this space
They're
is.
react
And the thing
content.
is, sure, react content, yeah, which is like exactly
That's what they
what
are.
we're doing. Yeah, and it's like you could have any varying like
They're like
around
Hassan, but they
quality.
actually watch the clips.
Yeah, I mean, so my thing is like you can have any level of quality. You can have all the way up to the 5 on Fox News, and you can have like us here on the WIC program, or all of us are talking. And then you might have Adolf Hitler on another channel. Who knows? The problem is anybody can do it, and that's what's scary. Like if somebody gets big, you'll have like what's that guy, Gypsy Crusader? He's big and seems evil as fuck, right? Like we have all these other people like Jack Doherty. Like it's kind of that's the problem with this. But that is also the good thing is also anybody has access to this, and I think it's overall a good thing. Hopefully. Remains to be seen.
I think what scares me about alt media in general is you don't have the accountability that you do in mainstream media.
Hold on, what accountability?
Well, that's what I was about to get to. The punditry on these mainstream networks obviously is not going to be just straight up the facts. But when we're talking just straight reporting, you look at AP, CNN, Fox News, MSNBC, when they're doing their reporting, not their punditry or their infotainment, those networks report facts. Like I would say I would take a Fox News report. If it's not coming from the pundits, it's coming from Fox News's news desk. That's credible information. And I'd say the same thing about CNN from the news desk. That's credible information because we have seen people who lie, and when they lie on those, there are tangible consequences that happen where those people lose their jobs. There are public retractions put out. That kind of accountability doesn't exist in alternative media. And a lie spreads a lot faster than truth does.
Are we sure that how I'm not sure that that's true. And I'll give you an example from the Black Insurrectionist. Not like that's his name. Don't call me out, gang. Okay. So the Black Resurrectionist, he's the man who made up the lie about that Gibbs that you were sending me about how Kamala got the campaign, or not the campaign, the debate questions early, right? He made up a whole bunch of stuff on that. He also made up that Tim Walz did some stuff with the kid.
Some diddling.
Okay? Yeah. He got caught making it up. AI generated. He wrote the emails. There's evidence out there that's very compelling that he just literally made this up. He's not, I think his account's gone now, right? So there is some pushback to this, right? There is
that story has like not totally evaporated, but like he's basically done.
What do you mean it's not totally evaporated?
So allegedly, there's a couple people saying that their case has been filed or something. We'll see. I have doubts. From the people who are saying it. And like one guy talked to this guy's source, allegedly the Black Insurrectionist source. He did a whole YouTube video on it. He's like, you see, whatever, the guy's announcing something here in the next couple of weeks or a week or so. Like, so I'm going to give it a month and then I'll say it's totally dead. But yeah, it seems pretty dead on DOA.
My point is that story went out, and how many people did it reach? Like with no kind of
it went on Yahoo,
and there's no avenue, because how could you? There's no avenue of public retraction for these kinds of things. You can ban somebody at some point if the misinformation becomes drastic enough that the website where it's being spread deems it something that needs to be bannable, which we can talk about that as well. But my point is there's no public avenue for retraction in something like that. Whereas if for some reason CNN ran with that story or Fox News ran with that story, as soon as they, were called out or discovered that they had been misled, there would be public retractions. There would be stories on their front pages that were like, hey, we reported this story. We were misinformed. We were wrong. And this is the facts of the matter on it. That kind of thing doesn't happen with alternative media.
You guys are talking about unions basically right now. You're talking about unions that follow all the OSHA standards and do everything right because they don't want to get fired. And what we're also discussing here is that guy you hired off of Facebook to fix your bathtub. So those are the two comparisons we're making here. And you can kind of carry over a lot of those same arguments. The news has a certain level of vetting for the people that they bring in. And if they get something wrong, they have to retract it, offer an apology, etc. Where online, we don't see this shaming. Like if somebody were to go on a news show and insinuate that, just off the top of my head, cookies were being banned from Gaza because they were being used to make rockets. That would be something that would probably get you canceled from going on any other news shows ever again because it was factually false. But here on the internet, you can just go back to your bubble, lick your wounds, and then 2 days later you got something else lined up. Change the narrative. So
Well,
there's
and
no.
sorry, go ahead.
There's just accountability.
No,
and
interrupt
shame.
him. He doesn't deserve to finish his sentence.
Well, I was
just
going to say,
a random example. Well, I don't know. I'm not targeting anybody.
Yeah. I mean, one big example of that is whenever the Alex Jones trial was happening, and I watched the video of him in court being like, he's like, I didn't make this shit up. I'm sorry. Blah blah blah. Just I mean, a total admission of guilt and that he lied and that he is sorry that he made a mistake. And he is. I mean, y'all can go watch this right now. But in the settlement, there was no requirement of him, I don't believe, to have to go on his show and say that he lied about it. So I went back, I went on the InfoWars website and I went to the day of his court case. And the next day he was posting videos back to the same narrative. And, to the extent that he mentions the court case at all he says is like, they're taking all my money. They're taking my kids from me. Please, please help me. And there is no mention of him admitting that he made all that shit up and he is a liar. So yeah, now there's some accountability because they had to drag the courts into it, and he owes like $1 billion or something. But that took years and years, and but his audience will never know that he ever lied about that.
That also speaks to the fact that the accountability had to come from outside,
Right.
whereas like you don't have internal retractions going on for that kind of accountability.
Yeah. For sure. Yeah, his viewers will never know that he lied about it. Which I guess on some level, the same could even be said about Fox News, I suppose, with the Dominion stuff.
Scandal, yeah.
Because sadly, in their settlement, also part of that was that they never had to say on their network that they lied about that. Now they did fire all the people that were involved in it. But they never had to actually say that they lied. So even publicly, there are loopholes. But generally, I would agree that there's more accountability with actual established mainstream news networks for sure.
Also, because the people that you're talking about often have the money to fight you legally if you do say something as well. So there is a little bit of a privilege because you're attacking larger entities, whereas here online, if some random streamer, again, just off the top of my head, some random streamer named Lav called her ex-boyfriend the Harvey Weinstein of Twitch, and then he hired a lawyer to sue her. It's not something she could legally, she wouldn't have the money to defend herself. She'd have to go ahead and apologize and retract, even if she was right.
How many streamers are getting sued, though?
I don't know. Not a lot of them have
not as many as need to.
These streamers talk a lot of shit about suing, but I don't see a lot of papers being served. So
true.
Rob Noir is on notice though, so you better watch out.
I think Destiny filed a cease and desist on Caffles, didn't he?
And Laugh.
I mean, we're just talking about the political sphere. I don't know, but I'll tell you what, there's lots of people getting sued all the time. I mean, if you look at any of the DJ streamers, they get sued twice a week for something. Like, I mean, one of those guys got arrested for shooting deadly weapons in the air just because he was shooting like fireworks off his plane. Like,
but that's not being okay. So
yes,
you're getting in trouble when you do illegal things, and then the cops catch you and they put you in jail. That's different.
If that's illegal, then America needs to change that. That is anti-freedom. What's more American than fireworks off your airplane while you're doing motorcycle stunts with hot babes? And if that's illegal, that's not an America I want to live in.
Gibbs, I detect major "don't tread on me" vibes from you. Am I correct?
You're correct. Amen.
My stepdad bought me this cup 2 years ago, and I still use it all the time.
Look, it's a good cup. You know what? It just it lets you blend in
yellow.
too. It's called camouflage. Okay?
Exactly, dude. I can have this on stream, and people just assume that I'm one of them. It's fun.
True.
Makes sense.
True.
No step on Snick.
No step on Snick, indeed. I don't know. Okay, I know we're having a show on this Friday officially, but I just want to hear your predictions, regardless of what you want to happen. Trump or Harris, who's taking it home, and on Tuesday, next Tuesday. What you got? What you got? Say.
My gut says it's gonna be kind of similar to what we've seen over and over again, where we're probably gonna have.
No, gun to your head. You have to pick Trump or Harris. Who is winning?
I think Harris wins. I think it's close. I think it's crazy close. I think it's Harris.
Okay. Gibbs?
I'm going to go Trump. I think it's a long race, though. There's a long time. Something will happen.
It's a week. That's not a long time, but
Yeah, I mean, if the Dems get their way, Trump might get assassinated because he's Hitler, so. And like a long race. Anything can happen.
What's your thoughts, Mr. Tyler?
All right, so we're looking at, is the polling going to be a repeat of 2012 with Mitt Romney, where they overcorrected and overpolled the classic polling error of underpolling Republicans, or are we going to see a repeat of 2016, 2020, where Trump was drastically underpolled in the swing states? I'm leaning toward the latter because Trump has had a command of the top 4 of the 5 fundamentals for pretty much the entire race, everything but abortion. So I think that he's got it in the bag just based on that alone.
Guess we'll find out. So what we got coming up this week, we're going to wrap this up. I'll give each of these individuals a closing statement. I might stream a little longer, just rant about a couple things, but I'm going to let these people go. So I want you to tell people where they can find you. And then, dear viewers, dear audience, I want you to go and subscribe to them. I got links to their Twitters and Twitches and YouTubes and stuff that I could find. What's your Twitch, Rowan? I didn't actually know. Do you have a Twitch?
I'm not on Twitch, just YouTube, Twitter, Instagram.
Okay, so not a Twitch streamer. Fair enough. But yeah, give him a follow, please. We got some great stuff coming up this week. On Tuesday, we're going to do call-ins. Wednesday, I'm trying to set up a debate on, is Trump Hitler? I need someone who thinks he's not. And then on Friday, we're going to be having the last prediction show of the election, where we have people from across the spectrum coming on, giving their analysis and their we're locking it in on camera, final answers. Rowan, close us out, and then we'll hear from everyone else. Rowan, go ahead, and then I want to hear from everyone
Closing
else.
statement going first. That's a lot of pressure. Well,
Yes.
I suppose I would say thanks so much for having me on. I think that for the record, Kamala Harris still should have gone on Joe Rogan's podcast. And, in terms of our conversation about the internet being a place where people are very mean to each other, just try to be a bit nicer to people online. And if you find yourself getting really angry, put your phone down for a while, because that generally helps. My name is Rowan. I make rap battles. I prank call Sam Cedar sometimes. You can find me on YouTube and Twitter at Rowan Reeds. That's ROENNREEDS. Rowan Reeds. And it was great to meet all y'all. Wick, thanks so much for having me on.
Check him out. Do you ever do live rap battles in the moment?
I have not yet, but I've been talking to J-Reg about doing that at some kind of live show at some point, so we might do that soon.
Okay. Fair enough. I'd love to see it. I keep challenging people to rap battles, but no one takes me up on it. And it's very sad.
Let's fly out, Wick. Let's do it.
We might. Off a topical. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I think that it's a wash. I don't really care about Joe Rogan all that much, and I don't think most people do. I'm not a fan of him personally. I don't like him, so I'm happy that she didn't go on for that reason, but I don't think it matters either way. And that's pretty much it on that. I appreciate the conversation with everybody. It was very civil, very nice. Had a really good time. You can find me on Twitter at Often Topical, spelled just like it sounds. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Okay, no, thanks for being here. Give him a follow again. Give him a check out, and I appreciate your time. Gibbs.
So the closing, it was definitely a mistake not to go on Rogan. It was really just an admission that Kamala is not able to handle any kind of significant pressure. She can't think on her feet. Very, very stunning admission by the Dems that she's afraid of big bad Joe Rogan. Yeah, major failure. Also, a side note, Often Topical's got a fantastic beard. No Diddy. A little bit jealous that it is as red and luscious as it is. But anyway, moving on. Yeah, you can find me as Admiral Gibbs on every platform. We do a lot of conservative takes, a lot of debating, and then we do some DJ and stuff in gaming. It's good times.
Check him out, gang. Thanks for being here. Really appreciate you. Last but certainly not least, Tyler.
So I just want to point out, I also, you can't see it right now, but I also have a red beard. So we have 4 fucking red beards in one podcast. This is amazing.
Yeah.
This is good for representation. Anywho, I think the worst part of the Kamala Harris campaign and election team is Kamala Harris. I think her staff is doing a fantastic job. Her rollout was amazing. I don't think she had what it takes to make it through this Rogan interview. It took her 4 days of prep to just line up for a friendly interview on CNN. Like, she just did not have it. More bad would have come out of this than good. There's a much larger cohort of people that would have held it against her and said she's enabling fascism, then she would have won over, and they're in areas that she needs to win versus question mark. So I think it was a tactical decision for her not to go and a smart one. on several levels. My channel's average debate enjoyer. I didn't like the video quality I was making, so I bought lighting, I bought a microphone, I bought a camera, I bought a new computer. I'm going to make a long video essay diagnosing what I think the issues and stuff were in the 2024 election. I talked with Connor from Counterpoints. He gave me some tips to how to become a video essayist, so I'm going to be shifting strategy to that as opposed to just being a debate bro. So but it's not going to be for a few months before you see anything new from me.
Okay. Thanks, gang. We'll see you guys later, and give him a follow. And I'm gonna move you guys out. I love you all. Have a good day. Let me
Love
figure
you
out
too.
So long.
this. Bye. Boop. Boop. There they go. Ladies and gentlemen, did you like the show? I don't know. This one was hard. This one was hard. I think everyone just had, you know what it was? I think everyone was too fucking reasonable. Too fucking reasonable. We needed more hot takes. We needed more fire. We needed more brimstone. How's the quality, gang? This is being done on a new rig. My old one died. That sucked. But I have a brand new one. I'm hoping the quality's good, or at least the same as it was before. We'll see, right? We'll see. I just want everyone, and I wanted to talk to you guys for the last 20 minutes of the show, because I've been doing a lot of thinking on this, right? I don't support Trump. I'm voting Democrat this election. I vote Democrat most elections. That said, I want to figure out a way where we can see each other as Americans again. In the circles I run in, there are a lot of Democratic supporters, such as I am, right, who I feel have gone astray, have crossed the line from political opposition to hatred. And look, but for the grace of God, there go I, right? There's a lot I don't like about Trump. I think he's not good at all, right? That's why I'm voting for Harris, who I'm not a huge fan of, but again, much better on almost every metric. But there has to be a way we can have these disagreements, that we can have these discussions, that we can have these talks without ending up treating each other as enemy combatants. That we have to be able to talk to each other and not not end up to a place where we think that if the other side wins, we are all doomed. I don't know how to do that, though. I've been trying. I have. I've been trying to reach out. I've been trying to kind of like being like, okay, we just disagree. But every incentive that there is in this space, every incentive that there is goes against that. The people on my side hate it. The people on the other side don't think it's enough, right? And they do the same thing that my side does, and I think they do it more, right? Not everyone, obviously. And so I'm in this conundrum, gang. I'm in this conundrum, and it really is a conundrum. How do we fix this? How do we do better? Arthur Navi says, as long as algorithms incentivize rage, nothing will change. Chiba Hawk 420, MAGA is a cult, and they've destroyed their own reality and have replaced it with nonsense. Then Roman Jedi Master with, let's send a group of 10,000 illegals to your neighborhood for a few weeks so we could talk. See, this is what I'm talking about, right? It's everyone is an enemy. Look, if you're voting for Trump, I think you're wrong. You shouldn't. But I don't think you're my enemy. I don't think necessarily you're a bad person. I think you're an American who values different things than I do. But especially this close to election season, right? Or not election season, the election, right? That becomes hard to hear and even harder to say. Because I know that simply saying that I think Trump supporters are American and human and not bad people is going to be taken as treason, right? I'm a dino in a lot of ways. And I've seen Republicans, MAGA supporters, who make similar takes, who get castigated by their side. How could you even support communism like that? Blah, 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 right? So you have these two rabid groups who are keeping anyone, like, as was mentioned earlier on the debate, there are people who will punish, and this is not, he wasn't lying, this is true. There are people who will punish Kamala Harris, people on the left, who would punish Kamala Harris for even deigning to talk to Joe Rogan. How do we fix it? How do we get better? I don't even know. Because whoever wins this election, if Kamala wins this election, and I hope she does, MAGA isn't going away. The voters that voted for MAGA aren't going away. We're still going to have to work with them. They're parts of our community. Same thing. If Trump wins, Kamala's supporters aren't going to disappear. Democrats aren't going to go away. We're going to have to work together. We're going to have to get shit done. America is too important to sink the fucking ship because your side didn't win. But that's what both sides have fucking done. Or I wouldn't say both sides, like portions of both sides try to do that. Portions of both sides try to sink the whole fucking ship because they're incentivized to. Because if things are bad, it's more likely that they're going to get in power the next time round. Joe the Meg for $10. Thank you for the $10. Dems probably should have avoided calling everyone even very milquetoast GOP candidate Hitler for the past 4 decades. You're not wrong. However, there's a difference between Madonna calling like fucking what's his name? Romney Hitler and Trump's former general calling Trump Hitler. There's a difference there, but you know. And to be clear, Trump isn't Hitler. Like I can say he's authoritarian. He has authoritarian tendencies. He's not going to be good for the country. I think he's going to do bad things, but he's not Hitler. Hitler is a class in and of itself. Joe the Mig for $5. MAGA isn't going to be there when Trump isn't running. Just look at how normal the Vance-Walz debate was. Maybe. I could be wrong. But I think that MAGA is going to be with us at least for a couple cycles, even if Trump loses. So say Trump loses. I don't think the MAGA voters go away. I don't think they I think that there is still going to be this type of worldview. This kind of real strong populism. Okay? Real strong populism that is just there. I don't think that's going to go away. It might manifest differently without Trump, but I don't think it goes away. I just don't. Tenflix says every candidate, but when pushed back on, this guy one time called one candidate this. No, I think that the call, like, I remember I voted in the Romney versus Obama election, right? I voted in the Bush versus Kerry. Let's go back even further. Bush versus Kerry. There are people who said Bush was a fascist back in 2004. But they were a very, very small minority. Most of us recognized, and I'm talking Democrats here, Bush wasn't a fascist. We didn't take those people seriously. We didn't, again, Romney. Most of us recognized, no, he wasn't a fascist. He wasn't Hitler. He's just Republican, right? There has always been a vocal minority who does these things, true. But when it comes to today, right, when we fast forward, I think you have more of a point, right? I think you have more of a point. I see it stronger today than I saw it during the Romney campaign and during the Bush Kerry years. Much stronger today. So I think it's not comparable. Does that make sense? I don't think the people who were calling Romney a fascist, I don't think that it's the same level as the people calling Trump a fascist today. I think it's very different. And yeah, like it's not better on the other side. I thank you for bringing that up. Portland is burning. But yes, Clinton, communist. Al Gore, communist. Hillary Clinton, murderer, communist. Right? Kamala, communist. Biden, communist. But again, beforehand, no one there was a couple people, right, on the right calling fucking Al Gore a communist. No one really took them seriously. But today, it's a much different beast. And there are people who really do believe that if Kamala wins, she's going to take our guns and she's going to send us off to foreign wars. In order to get rid of the fighting male class in America so that they can have their communist revolution. That's a real take I heard from a real person in real life, not online. I was talking to them face to face. Crazy shit, okay? Crazy shit. No side has a monopoly on crazy. But remember, I started this like little rant here talking about how we can fix this. And we've already gone to the other side started it. I don't think we're ever going to fix it if we continue to play the blame game, right? If we continue to be like, well, they do it worse or they did it first. Tessie Johnson says there's no fixing it. I think we can mitigate it. I absolutely think we can. Right on. What is my camera not working? Bright on day. What do you mean? You guys are saying the stream quality is better, but my camera's worse? What's going on? I mean, my camera's not good. It's cheap, but the stream quality is better. That's good, right? I don't know. Okay. Tomorrow, we're going to do call-ins. If you got big thoughts about this, Penflix, it's been a while since you called in. You should call in. We should have a discussion, right? So yeah, you guys call in tomorrow. We'll have a talk. We'll have a discussion. And we'll just do a kind of a relaxed stream. And again, if you are more conservative or more libertarian leaning and you'd like to debate a gentleman on whether or not Trump is fascist and a Hitler, I'm looking for a conservative or a libertarian to come on my show Wednesday and have a one-on-one debate. If you would like to be that person, you can contact me over Discord or on Twitter. My DMs are open. Get a hold of me. And if I don't answer right away, keep trying, right? Kind of first come, first serve this, pretty much. Unless like someone huge comes on, but I don't see that happening. And yeah, and has everyone decided what they're gonna dress up for as Halloween? Has everyone decided on their costume? Halloween's this week. You guys excited? Hope you are. I hope you are. Okay. Who's still streaming? Have we filibustered enough to stream to Prime Kai? Yes, we have. Let's go raid Prime Kai, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Same bad time, same bad channel. What I want you to do is I want you to let him know that this is a hate raid from his favorite white boy streamer. Okay. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Bye-bye.